Hey, how's it going, guys? Ricky Summer here, and today I've come back in time to help you 80s up your chords just a little bit. The reason I'm making this video is because I keep seeing these ads on YouTube. You know the ones I'm talking about, the chord pack ads. You don't even have to know a lick of music theory. You can just drag and drop the chords from this pack that we give you. It's all just MIDI information. You drag it into your digital audio workstation and suddenly you've got fire tracks. And the worst part of these ads is then they show you an example of something they've constructed with these chord packs, and it's just the most basic ass beat you've ever seen, but their reactions are all and like it's straight fire and they're so inspired. And make no mistake, I'm not saying that you can't create awesome music using these chord packs. I'm just saying that if you take a little bit of time to learn just super basic music theory, you're going to be able to create something quicker and something so much better than you would by accident using these chord packs. It just makes me mad because theory is not that hard. And this is coming from someone who was the worst at theory in my class when I was studying music. Legitimately, I'm not exaggerating. I was the worst. And I wrote music by ear, and to this day I still write music by ear. You don't lose that ability. But once I've written something by ear, I'm then able to understand why it works. And if I ever get stuck during the writing process, I can fall back on my theory and say, yo, from a theory standpoint, the song might want to go to this place. So then I try it out and it helps me along, right? All right, so today we're going to talk about 80s-ifying your chords. And this is not a unique subject. There's heaps of videos explaining this sort of stuff out there that you can watch. I just feel like most of them are from a standpoint of like you already know your theory. Like if I say, here's a sus4 chord, you already know what that is. And I want to approach this from a little bit more of a basic standpoint. So maybe you don't know anything about theory or you just know like the super basics. Let's just look at it from a practical standpoint. I'm just going to give you a few tools that you can try out to alter your current chord progressions to make them sound a little more interesting, maybe sound a little more 80s. We'll see how we go. All right, cue the intro. All right, so we're going to start with a little progression here, and we're going to use it as a case study for me to explain a couple of principles. I'm going to try and keep this simple for those of you who don't know a lot of theory. So we're going to start with this progression here. I'm not sure if that's an existing song. I was just playing around like, that'll work. This will work to demonstrate my point. So what we've got here is an A minor going to an F major and then a G major. So for those of you who are looking at this and going, what? Maybe you got no idea about chord theory at all. You're going, what in the world is he playing? I'm just playing triads. So a triad is the first, the third, and the fifth degrees of a scale. So we are in A minor, which means all white keys. So it sounds like this. Minor, think sad. That's usually what people think. When they hear minor, they think sad. Major is happy. Major, minor. So it's the 1, 3, 5 of that scale. So that means every chord in that scale, if we're not breaking the rules, is going to be a white key. So all of these chords is just 1, 3, 5. And then I'm playing the bass note here. Pretty simple. Okay, so we'll play that again. It's pretty vanilla. It's not super interesting. So what can we add to it, or what can we change about it to make it a little more interesting, possibly more 80s? Well, let's talk about sus2 and sus4 chords. This is something that you'll hear a lot of in 80s pop, and I don't want to encourage you to just go ham and make everything a sus2 or a sus4, but it's a good starting point, I find. So we're going to leave the A minor alone because it's the root chord, right? It's the chord that says, yo, this is what the progression is going to sound like. We're in A minor, get ready for it. Because then once we change things, it subverts expectation. So if we're going, you're like, yeah, okay, I've heard that 1,000 times before. I get it. But if we go, maybe like, ooh, something's changed there. It's a little bit different. Let me show you what I did. So from the A minor to the F, and I've replaced it with a sus2 chord. So all that means is we're taking out the third. So there's our triad. We don't need the third, get rid of it. And we're going to add in the second, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, and 5. Like that. We could also do the 4. But I don't think that really works in this case. Again, I'm just using my ear. You know, I'm constructing things based on my theory knowledge, but then making the ultimate decision based on what I think sounds good. So I'm still writing by ear. You don't lose that by gaining a little bit of theory knowledge. So let's keep going. What can we do to make that G triad more interesting? Well, we could do the same thing as we did with the F. Turn it into a sus2. I'm not sure that really works though, but let's have a listen. It's a little bit, has a little bit too much tension, doesn't resolve. So let's try a sus4. Oh, okay. That's a little nicer to my ear, but it still wants to resolve, I think. Right, so then we play the regular major triad. I admit, that's something I do a lot. I go from the sus4 to the regular triad. Let me take this hand away so you're not getting confused. 4, 3. Because it gives you a little bit of tension and then it resolves. That's what music's all about. It's, hey, here are the rules. Now we're going to break the rules with some tension. And don't worry, don't even trip, we're coming back to the rules. That's what makes it fun. Okay, so let's try that together. A minor, bog standard. F sus2. G sus4. G major. And then you can alter it. Then you can go back to the majors if you want. So you can switch it up, right? So there's still, like, at its core, the same chords. You just change some of the color in the middle to give it more information. Then we can change it further. So we can adjust some of the inversions, which means the order in which you play the notes. Like, for example, we've got 1, 3, 5. But what if we want to do maybe we want to do 5, 1, 3. It's still the same chord, but it sounds different, doesn't it? Darker, more brooding. But, you know, that's something you can play around with. But what we're going to do right now, I think, is let's try stripping away some notes from this F. Because I think it could still pop a little more. So something we can do is we can just straight up take out the fifth. So if we go back to the triad here, once again, 1, 3, 5. The reason this is like your baseline standard chord is because you've got the 1, which tells you what the chord is. It's an F. You know, without that, you won't know that it's an F, so you need that. We've got the 3rd, which tells you whether it's major or minor. And then we've got the 5th, which tells you kind of not much. But it's a little thickener, you know, it makes the chord fuller. So if we need to take out a note, we take out the 5th. It doesn't really lose anything, does it? I mean, it's thinner, it's less full as a chord, but we still have that necessary information that tells us this is an F major. Then we add in the bass. We go back to the sus. Hey, still sounds pretty good. We add in the 5th. You can do a little rundown if you want. You can just like, you just playing a bunch of chords here. That's just me playing around. We don't have to worry about that. Okay, so we've got this stripped down sus2, this F sus2. Let's see what that sounds like together with the other chords. Still missing something. Maybe we want to add the 5 back in, or maybe we can add the 5 back in down here. So now we're back to exactly what I was playing before, but the 5 is an octave down. That is, in terms of the information you're hearing, the same as that. You hear that? So let's try that together. If I can play it. That's not bad, I like that. Yeah. Because then, you know, that's a lot more dark and brooding. So then when you lift up to the G sus4, it's a lot brighter. The contrast is greater. So there's something else we can do here. We can actually change the chord while still kind of getting that similar sound. So back to the F sus2, there's another type of chord called an add2. And I think you can pretty much create any sort of chord out of this structure. It's basically, hey, here's a chord, and we're going to add a note to it. Add 2, add 4, add 9 is common too. So what that means is instead of replacing the 3 with the 2, we're going to keep the 3 and we're going to add the 2. It doesn't sound too bad, does it? And then opposed to, compare it to the sus2. It's a lot fuller, isn't it? Let's throw it in there. If I can play it. That's right. Whoops. How about that? So to explain what I was doing there, I was just riffing around. Remember what I said before? You can change the chords from phrase to phrase. So I went like just the standard what we'd come up with. So the A minor, the add 2, and then the G sus4, moving to just the regular G major. Then we go again. A minor stays the same as always. Then I did just a regular F major, and this time regular G, but then it was G sus2 back to the regular G. Just adding little bits and pieces. You could even do a sus4 on the A if you want. Maybe. What do we do like an add for? Nah, sus4. So something else we might want to try is rearranging the order of the chords. So right now we're going A minor, F sus2, G sus4 to G major. So maybe at the end of the phrase we'll switch it around a little bit. So we've got this sort of turnaround thing going from the F to the G. So it might sound something like this. And then we go back to the A. All right, so let's recap. So we start off with the bog standard vanilla A minor. At least the first time through the chord progression, we're not going to change that. Later on, you can add some alterations to it if you want. So A minor, F sus2, and then G sus4 to G major. Second time round, A minor, F sus2, and then maybe this time we'll go G major to G sus2, back to G major. Just playing around a little bit, right? And then once again, A minor, F sus2, G sus4, G major. And then instead of starting again back to the A minor, we're going to go F major and G. Something like that. And you can add so much more to it. And each time around you can change it again. And it just adds so much more interest to it. And it, it has a little more of that 80s vibe. As opposed to what we started with, which was now it's add in some little runs and whatnot, whatever you feel comfortable with. But just by changing what you find in the middle of the chord, it could be a third. We do a sus2 or a sus4 or an add2 or even an add4 or all of them in succession. You can do whatever you want. Just add a little bit of color. So the only rules we're going to follow is, at least at the start of the progression, you keep that first chord pure. Just leave it as it is. A minor or whatever key you're starting in. And then, you can play around with the rest. If it doesn't sound right, then switch it back to its regular form, We know that the chord progression we started with works. We just want to make it more interesting. Play around with it. Alright, so those are the basic principles I think about when playing around with chords for my songs. Of course, there's so much more you can do with it, but just from a ease of understanding and ease of playing standpoint, I think that's pretty good. That's a good basis, and I would encourage you to play around with 2s and 4s, and hell, just like mix it up, play whatever notes you want, and then try and figure out what those chords are. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. Because even recording this video, I'm like, yo, this is going to be great. It's just like the super simplest basics of chord construction. And then I start doing it and I'm like, oh shit, someone who has no idea about chords is going to be lost with this. So I'm happy to answer any and all questions you have in the comments below. And if there are any topics you want me to delve into further in the future, let me know down there as well, because I'd love to make more videos like this. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope this helps out your songwriting a little bit. Taste some music. Taste some music in this case. Taste something. Be excellent to each other. I'll see you next time. Ricky Summer, out.